Mark Carney traveled to Calgary, Alberta Union Hall, representing over 2,000 skilled tradespeople, pipe fitters, plumbers, journeymen. He didn't go to a government building or a ballroom. He went to a union hall. The occasion was a landmark accord between the federal government of Canada and the province of Alberta, two governments that have had a famously tense relationship for decades. Alberta is the heart of Canada's oil and gas industry, and it has long felt that Ottawa doesn't understand it or work for it. The deal included a new low-carbon pipeline to Asia, a functioning carbon market with real price mechanisms, a massive carbon capture project through the Pathways Alliance, and a shared commitment from both governments to net zero by 2050. Carney called it Canada working, and then he said, "I look forward to your questions." That's when things got interesting. The first reporter went straight for what she believed was the weakest point in the entire announcement. "The pipeline to Asia sounds great," she said, "but it has to go through British Columbia, a province that hasn't agreed to anything. No route until October, conditions document due September 27th, a first operational date of 2033. How are you going to get BC on side and run meaningful consultations that fast?"
G'day, Prime Minister. Emma Graney from the Globe and Mail. I want to ask you just said it's Canada working, but what about BC consultation, specifically around the pipeline? I mean, you're looking at a conditions document September 27, first or potentially 2033. That's extremely quick. So how are you going to get them on side and conduct sufficient consultations when you don't even have a route or anything until October?
Well, thank you for the question. And I had a regular speak with Premier Eby. He and I had a good conversation yesterday about a range of subjects, including aspects of what we announced today. I'm looking forward, actually, I will be seeing the Premier in Vancouver next week, and we will address a series of issues directly in the interests of British Columbia, as well as issues in partnership with the Government of Canada, Government of Alberta, if aspects of this or as aspects of this agreement move forward. So how do we do it, which was your question? We do it as we did here, through cooperation, through open dialogue, working together, making sure, as I said in my remarks, standing alongside Premier Smith a few hours ago, that the people of British Columbia benefit from projects that touch them. And of course, before all of that, and fundamentally, is we respect and fully fulfill.
What you just watched was Carney doing something experienced politicians rarely do. He actually answered the question. He gave a specific meeting with BC Premier Eby the following week. He gave a concrete framework, cooperation, open dialogue, and then grounded everything in the federal government's hard legal obligation to free, prior, and informed consent with Indigenous partners. The reporter came in with a timeline problem. Carney's answer showed the timeline was already in motion. The second confrontation is the most dramatic, and honestly, the one that makes this press conference worth watching on its own.
Sweeney with City News. I'm wondering if you could tell us what, in terms of figures, are the actual emissions reductions you expect out of today's deal, and then what is your message to environmental groups who have a long list of releases right now calling this deal today a betrayal, a bulldozing of environmental protections, gutting a major climate tool, harming our future, and abandoning international commitments, and putting net zero by 2050 firmly out of reach?
Well, first, let me start at the end and let me go through it. What we have today is an agreement between the Government of Canada and the Government of Alberta committing to net zero 2050. Both of us committing to net zero 2050. Not committing in a speech, not committing rhetorically, committing with a series of investments and commitments and market frameworks that are going to move the province, going to move the country towards low emission and to net zero. Net zero, the environment respects, or is a function of emissions. It's physics. It's what actually happens. And in order to change what actually happens, you have to go out in that room. You have to get some of those apprentices when they get their Red Seal trades. You have to go to a job site. You have to build things like the Oil Sands Alliance Pathways project, which is going to take 16 megatons of carbon out of the atmosphere every year, equivalent of 90% of the cars coming off the road in Alberta every year. Once you take 90% off, you can't take another 9, but you get the point.
That answer deserves a moment. His first move was to go straight to the most dramatic accusation, net zero out of reach, and flip it. Both governments are committing to net zero 2050, he said. He then brought in the Pathways Alliance carbon capture project, 16 megatons of carbon removed from the atmosphere every year, equivalent to taking 90% of Alberta's cars off the road. Then he went to the actual market numbers. Before this deal, the real carbon trading price in Alberta's market was $20 per ton, not the headline number, $20. By 2040, the framework puts it at 6.5 times that, and he pointed out that the price had already doubled just on the expectation that the deal would work. The third moment came when a reporter tried a different angle, a personal one. If you were still in the private sector, Prime Minister, would you invest in this pipeline given the uncertainty around the separation referendum? The implication being, even you wouldn't touch this with your own money, so why should anyone else? Carney paused, acknowledged it was a good question, said he was never going back to the private sector, and then explained exactly what conditions make a project investable. Clear rules, predictable carbon markets, contracts for differences, government skin in the game, and a country that honors what it signs.
If you were still in the private sector, Prime Minister, would you invest in this pipeline given the uncertainty around the separation referendum and its dependence on pathways?
If you look at the overall picture, and I see this when I meet people in Asia, leaders in Asia, business people in Asia, on behalf of Canada. How are we viewed? We are viewed as a reliable country in a world that's anything but. We're viewed as a country that when we sign something, we honor it. We're viewed as a country that is now on the move, a country with ambition, with confidence, moving forward, a country that intends to build big. We're viewed as a country that is both an energy superpower and believes in addressing climate change. And so the ability to combine all of that is very, very attractive to Asian partners. Now, another component sorry, just in the translation, but of my answer, but it's fundamental to your question, is what does today's accord, our implementation agreement as it's called, what does it tell us? It's that the country works. The Government of Canada, the Government of Alberta coming together, challenging issues, but coming together with a common solution, a country with clear rules, predictable rules, carbon markets that's going to function, contracts for differences and other support and incentive mechanisms that are put in place.
Every reporter had a legitimate, serious question. And in every single case, Carney had the specific numbers, the legal frameworks, and the concrete mechanisms ready to go. That's not political instinct. That's professional habit from years in environments where a wrong answer doesn't just hurt your poll numbers. It moves markets and affects real people's lives. That's what makes this press conference worth watching. Not because reporters failed, but because it shows what it looks like when a politician actually knows his brief cold. And in the current political climate, that itself is the story.